Witam wszystkich. Today I'm going to do a video on homemade Bigos. One thing to note is that my babcia is not Polish, and I am not Polish. So this is more of a recipe that I found online. I lived in Poland for a couple years, and so I was looking for a Bigos recipe. And this is what I found and kind of adapted it to my own liking. Here's my ingredients list, so you can go ahead and pause the video to find out, to actually get some time to write it down. Like I said, I've kind of modified it for my own liking, but it's pretty close to what I tasted when I was living in Poland. So I start off with 3 head of cabbage, and the reason why I have so much cabbage is that I'm making a lot at one time. And I really want to, the reason I make a lot at one time is that it does really store well, especially if you're continually eating it and you're continually heating it up over and over again. So you make a big pot and then you don't have to make it as much, and every day you just kind of heat it up, reheat it, or just heat up the amount you're going to eat, and then it tastes better over time. So this is the way I do it. So I make a big huge pot with 3 big huge cabbage. And if you notice, I have two types of cabbage, the green cabbage and the purple cabbage. And the green cabbage is cheaper, so I get more of it. But I like a little bit of a different taste, more variety of taste in it, so I use the 2 types of cabbage. And basically, I'm chopping it up into cubes or little squares, I guess. You don't have to do that. You can just do strips. I've done that before. I don't know. It's about the same. Sometimes I'll do one way, sometimes I'll do the other way. This is about my 4th or 5th time making this recipe, although every time I change it a little bit. Here's my helper. But yeah, go ahead and feel free to experiment with whatever cabbage you want to use. You can use different types of cabbage, and the more variety, the better it'll taste, I think. So you also see I'm cutting the heart out. I'm not putting the heart of the cabbage in. So then I take the pot and I put it on the stove and I put some water in it, and then I'm going to turn the stove on to boil to as hot as it can go. That way, and I'm going to kind of get it started. And while it's heating up, I'm going to start cooking some meat. So really the type of meat you use is up to you. In this version, I'm using this Polish kielbasa, which you obviously have to use Polish kielbasa because it's a Polish dish. And even though I can't really find good kielbasa here in the States, this is the best I can. So I'm cutting it up into quarters. I don't know, maybe there's a better way, but this is what I do. So I'm going to cut this up into small pieces, and then I'm going to start frying it. And I'm showing you what I'm going to use next. So anyways, I'm going to start frying the kielbasa in a frying pan and cook it before I put it in with the cabbage. So while it's cooking, I'm going to go to the next step, which is cut up some mushrooms. You have to have mushrooms in a Polish dish. That's just the way it is. They always put mushrooms in everything. So I just grabbed some from the store. These are the cheap ones. I guess the more fancy they are, probably the better they taste. But these are pretty good. Simple. Just chop them up into little pieces. I just used a bunch. That's how much I got, a bunch. So stir the meat, and while you're chopping up, throw in in those mushrooms. And then when the meat's all done, you'll see I'm going to put a little bit to the side because I like to snack on a little bit of it while I'm cooking. So I'll put a little bit to the side to dry out, and then I'll put the rest in the pot. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cook some sausage. Now, I guess sausage is kielbasa, right? Well, anyways, this is just pork sausage. I've also used bacon instead of pork sausage, and bacon is really good with this. It's basically just another type of meat. You can use another type of kielbasa if you can find a different type of kielbasa. I know when I was in Poland, they'd use 2 or 3 different types of kielbasa. So just look for different types of kielbasa. More the better. The more different types of meat you put in, the better. So here I'm frying up that, and then I'm going to go back and cut up the rest of anything else I have. Oh, look. My daughter's playing with her dog. The dogs are going crazy because I'm cooking meat and they want some. So they're all begging, "Give me meat." And the baby wants to play with the dogs. So cooking up the rest of the sausage. Stirring the pot at the same time. I'm trying to balance 2 different things. While one's cooking, I'm cooking 2 things at once. And then I'm going to go I'm just going to stir this, I guess. Oh, she keeps taking all the dishes out. I wonder why the kitchen has dishes all over the floor. Because my helper keeps helping too much. So once the sausage is done, just put it in. Now I'm pretty much done frying for this time. So I'm going to put the pot where it's easier to get to. It's the only reason why it was in the back was so that I could fry at the same time. So now while it's boiling, I'm going to cut up my onions. And I'm just cubing it. So I just use 1 big onion. I don't know, maybe 2 will be better. It's a big pot, so don't be afraid to put a lot of flavor in it, because it's diluted down a lot by having such a big pot. So really it is, I think 1 onion is pretty good, just about right. Just dump it in the pot, come back for the rest of it. So throw it in the pot and then stir it up. And then while I was doing this, I found some green onions in the fridge. They were still good, but they were getting older. They weren't as fresh, and so I decided to use them up. Whatever my wife was saving them for, I don't know, but decided to use them before they go bad. So you don't have to put green onions in. You can just use just the normal onions. But hey, if you have it, throw it in. That's the nice thing about it. Here's some diced tomatoes. You can take a normal tomato and just cut it up, but for some reason I like the canned diced tomatoes better. And then you need tomato sauce. I've also used tomato paste. It's cheaper, but I had a bunch of these cans already at home, so I used them. But yeah, I think tomato paste is cheaper, and you already have a lot of water in there, so you don't have to mix it. You just dump the paste in, and it works the same. Stir it up. Just keep it boiling. You're trying to get it to boil all that water off. Now I add a bunch of garlic. You can take garlic cloves, or you can be lazy like me and just buy a bottle of garlic salt. Or you can just have garlic, not the salt part, the garlic, minced garlic or something. And I had Italian seasoning in my pantry, so let's use some of that too. Why not? You might look at it and think it's a lot, but remember it's a big pot, so you really don't. Here's some chives again. Oh, I found some in the pantry. Let's see what that tastes like. This is kind of experimenting on myself. You always need salt. Again, just put a bunch on. And you might think it's a lot, but you have to put a lot on to really get the flavor of it because it's such a big pot, such a large amount. So that's all I did today. That day, I let it boil for a couple hours. And then the next day, I decided to put some venison that I had in the freezer. So I thawed it out. And I don't know how much that is. It's a bunch. I guess you can judge how much that is. You don't have to use venison. You can use beef. You can use pork, shoulder. I think venison is supposed to be the actual traditional because Bigos is a hunter stew, so they'd be hunting deer. So I think maybe venison's supposed to be in there, but the reason I'm using it is because I had it. That's pretty much the reason why I'm using it, to make it cheaper. It's something I already have in the freezer, so I might as well use it up in some meal. And I'm cutting all the I'm not necessarily cutting the fat off. It's more like sinewy stuff it's really hard to chew. Every once in a while you might, I guess the video's so fast it's hard to see, but I'm throwing the pieces I'm cutting off, I'm throwing them to the dogs, and they're just standing there right next to me just begging for pieces. This is their favorite time when I'm cutting up venison because I know they're going to get some of it. So just cube it up into little pieces, and then I'm going to fry it just like the rest. So while I was doing this, I kind of went off the recipe and decided to flavor the meat up a little bit before I put it in. Use some non-traditional Polish flavorings like Worcestershire sauce. You gotta love Worcestershire sauce. So I'd throw that in, and I was looking through my fridge and I said, maybe something else. Let's try lemon. Here it comes. Lemon. Gotta love lemon. Lemon juice. Pure 100%. So let's throw some of that in. Again, this isn't traditional part. This is just me looking through, deciding to put something in there. And then, of course, if you don't know what that is, you're missing out. Go ahead and look it up on Google. That's the best barbecue sauce, hands down, bar none, no comparison. And then when it was all done, I had to put a little bit to the side, and just so my son would quit bugging me. He wanted some so bad. And there you go. It's all done. If you can see, this was like the next day. So it's day 3 boiling it. So you can see how much it's dropped, how much the water's dropped down in the pot. So it's really 3 days of boiling. And getting a lot of that water off. I'm still going to keep boiling it. A couple more times but I'd pull, I kind of pull some of it out like that, like I'm doing here, and put it in my container without the water. Anyways, thanks for watching, and smacznego.